Thank you so much. It's great to be back at the RJC, and to all of you, Shavua Tov. The Republican Jewish Coalition has always had a special place in my heart for many reasons. We get each other on a personal level. We know what it's like to be pushed around, but we also know what it means to push back. And right now, America needs leaders who aren't afraid to fight for what is right. We just lived through a disheartening election. It should be a wake-up call for all of us. We have to stop losing and start winning. And we have to choose candidates that can win not just a primary, but also a general election. We don't need more politicians who love to go on TV and talk about our problems. We need real leaders with a record of delivering solutions, the kind of leader that will do the hard work and get the results that we need. We did that when I was governor of South Carolina. We did that when I was UN ambassador. And between us, I'm just getting started. We need to acknowledge what went wrong on November 8th. But first, I want to talk about what went right. Despite the headlines, we cleaned up in a lot of states. Look at Florida. I'm glad to be joined tonight by Governor Ron DeSantis. He's doing great things, and he earned his victory. But don't listen to the media. Florida is far from the only bright spot that we had. Brian Kemp handily defeated Stacey Abrams in Georgia. Greg Abbott kicked Beto O'Rourke to the curb in Texas. And then there's Iowa. The good people of the Hawkeye State flipped the Attorney General seat. The state treasurer, both 40-year incumbents in those races. And at the top of the ticket, Governor Kim Reynolds won in a historic victory, shepherding every single congressional race and picked up multiple state house races. These leaders won because they actually led. They fought for the people in their states. Over the past few months, my political organization and I endorsed 60 candidates. We did over 80 campaign events. We raised $10 million that went straight into those candidates' campaign accounts. And we had a great time working with the RJC in Nevada and Texas. Like all of you, it was disheartening to see some of our candidates lose. But I disagree that our losses were due to one person. I also disagree that we had bad candidates. We fell short for a number of reasons. First, our candidates were completely outraised. The Democrats blew us out of the water when it came to fundraising, and it's why we lost the messaging wars. Secondly, we were completely outplayed electorally. The Democrats did a full court press to vote early. We sat on our hands. Friends, early and absentee voting are here to stay. We need to play the same game and turn out the maximum number of voters. The left does it, and we don't. And finally, we were completely outfought politically. The Democrats were unified. They had their eye on the ball. Even the squad stayed silent. But Republicans spent as much time fighting each other as we did the Democrats. It is time to quit eating our own. The truth is, Americans weren't trusting the state of our party. They don't want chaos. They want strength and stability and unity. We didn't have that. We have to look in the mirror. The Republican Party has lost the popular vote in the last 7 out of 8 presidential elections. That's saying something. We're behind the times, and we have to be honest with ourselves. Joe Biden turns 80 years old tomorrow. Happy birthday, Mr. President, but it's time for a younger generation to lead across the board. Our failure on Election Day has a terrible cost. When we lose, the Democrats win. And when the Democrats win, America loses. Look at our economy. Bidenflation is crushing families. It costs more at the pump, and that's how we get to work. It costs more at the grocery store, and that's how we feed our families. Families are spending $5,000 more this year than they spent last year on the exact same things. When Michael and I were raising our kids, do you know where we would have gotten that money from? A credit card. That's what's happening in middle America right now, and interest rates are going up. People are suffering. 30% of Americans have dipped into their savings account. 60% of Americans are now in credit card debt. A third of our small businesses couldn't pay rent in October. Our small businesses are the heartbeat of our economy. This is a crisis. But the Republican Party knows the solutions that will get us back on track. We need to cut wasteful spending. We need to cut taxes. We need to pump more oil and gas than we ever have before. And we don't need Washington paying people to sit on the couch. We put those same solutions to work in South Carolina. When I came into office, our unemployment rate was 10.8%. And South Carolinians were tired of being the butt of the jokes. Prior years, all of the eggs in South Carolina had been put in the textile basket. And when textile manufacturing went overseas, so did all of our jobs. So when I came in, we knew we had to recruit. And I didn't want to recruit companies from other states. That was too easy. I wanted to recruit companies from overseas because I wanted to make things in America again. And we retrained our workforce and we taught them skills. Our citizens started believing in South Carolina again. And more importantly, they started believing in themselves again. And it worked. We made South Carolina #1 in foreign investment in the entire country. And by the time I left, we were building planes with Boeing. We were building more BMWs than any place in the world. We had recruited Mercedes-Benz, Volvo. We had 5 international tire companies, and our unemployment had hit a 15-year low. They were referring to us as the beast of the Southeast, which I loved. If we can do that in South Carolina, we can do that in all of America. And parents know that we need to fix our education. Everyone wants to blame COVID for the terrible failure of our schools, but our schools were a disaster before the pandemic ever hit. Pre-COVID, 65% of 4th graders in our country were not proficient in reading. 66% of 8th graders weren't proficient in reading or math. Now the situation's even worse. Our kids have experienced the largest decline in 3 decades. Ready for this? Now 70% of 8th graders in our country are not proficient in reading. And we saw the largest drop in math scores ever. Do you really think we'll beat China if our kids can't read, write, or do simple math? As parents, we have one job, and that's to make sure our kids get a good education. Parents know what their children need. We have to have school choice in our country. It's racist that the Democrats think that minorities are incapable of picking the schools for their children. We are perfectly capable of picking our schools for our children. And there are so many other problems to solve. We need to end the crime wave and back the blue. We need to secure our border and build the wall. America is a country of laws, and it's time every criminal knew it. And of course, we need to restore our faith in our elections. Someone should teach Arizona, Nevada, and California how to run an election. We deserve to know the results on Election Day, not Thanksgiving. And we need even more election integrity because it works. Remember how Democrats said Georgia's new voter law was Jim Crow 2.0? Well, guess what? Georgia is getting record turnout records. I pushed for voter ID in South Carolina back in 2011. I was vilified for it. They said I was disenfranchising voters. And I said, if you've got to show a picture ID to buy Sudafed, if you've got to show picture ID to get on a plane, you should have to show picture ID to protect the integrity of the election process. And I said, but I hear you. So if you think we're disenfranchising voters, anyone that needs an ID, we will pick them up, we will take them to the DMV, we will give them a free ID, and we will return them home safely. Out of 5 million people in South Carolina, you know how many people asked for a ride? 25. We passed voter ID in South Carolina, and now we have more people voting in South Carolina than ever before. And yes, we have our election results on election night. We need to be strong at home, but we need to be strong in the world. I know what American leadership looks like, and it is the opposite of what Joe Biden is doing. Look at how this president has treated Israel. The Jewish state doesn't even know if we have her back anymore. Israel shouldn't have to wonder whether America stands with her after every election. I was proud to stand up to the bullies and the haters of Israel in the UN. It was the right thing to do. But standing up to Israel should never be partisan. And I'm proud to say I was the first governor in America to sign a law banning BDS. We're up to 35 states and counting. Supporting Israel shouldn't be hard. Neither is standing up to Iran. But Joe Biden doesn't get that. He spent most of the past 2 years trying to rejoin the Iran deal. Iran wouldn't even allow us in the negotiating room. Do you know who the lead negotiator was? Russia. Think about that. We're having one enemy negotiate with another enemy for us. That's lunacy. That's not leadership. We all know what Iran wants. The regime tells us all the time, death to America, death to Israel. And it wants nuclear weapons to make good on that promise. A bad deal with Iran makes that more likely, not less. And if Biden succeeds in getting back in the Iran deal, I will make you a promise. I've said it before. The next president will shred it on her first day in office. Lots of our crises wouldn't exist if we wouldn't have had the debacle in Afghanistan. Pulling out of Afghanistan wasn't the problem. The problem was how Joe Biden did it. He threw away 2 decades of sacrifice and humiliated our country. 13 heroic service members lost their lives because Biden surrendered. As the wife of a combat veteran who deployed in Afghanistan, it was sickening to watch. And it was a slap in the face to my husband, Michael, and his military brothers and sisters who served there. To think that Biden had America leave Bagram Air Force Base in the middle of the night without telling our allies who stood shoulder to shoulder with us for decades because we asked them to be there. Think about what that told our friends. More importantly, think about what that told our enemies. It said, when in danger, America can't be trusted. Putin sure got the message. It's why he thought he could get away with the largest land war in Europe since World War II. America could have stopped that war before the shooting started. China got the message too. China is closer than ever to invading Taiwan. It's in the process of building military that rivals our own. And you want to know what our military is doing? Gender pronoun classes. And what's Joe Biden doing? He's trying to negotiate a climate deal with China. We have to snap out of it. China is our number one national security threat. We should be standing up to China, not begging them to recycle more. We should be making our military stronger than ever. My brother served in Desert Storm and my husband in Afghanistan. I know the sacrifice military families endure. Believe me when I say I want peace. And that's why I want to renew our strength. A strong America doesn't start wars. A strong America prevents wars. American leadership is needed now more than ever. Terrorists are on the march. Russia's invading its neighbors. A communist superpower is trying to bury us, and America is falling behind. We look so distracted right now, and when America's distracted, the world is less safe. The world hasn't been this dangerous since the 1970s. But if we get focused, humble, and disciplined, we can make sure Joe Biden follows in the footsteps of Jimmy Carter. Like Jimmy, we'll make sure Joe is a one-term president. We have the right policy solutions, but the biggest threat we face isn't really about policy at all. It's about our fading national pride. There is a national self-loathing that is sweeping across America, and it's worse than any pandemic by far. My love of America is one of the driving forces in my life. At the UN, I dealt with plenty of countries that hate America, and proving them wrong was the best part of my job. But I never expected to see that same hatred coming from our fellow Americans. We now have self-loathing in the classroom, the boardroom, the media green room, and the back rooms of government. We see it in riots on our street and censorship in big tech. And we see it at every level of the Democratic Party, all the way up to Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. The Democrats of today no longer want a colorblind society. Just the opposite. They want to judge people based on the color of their skin. And they have the gall to tell us America is racist. My parents taught me better. They came from India with $8 in their pockets. We were the only Indian family in a small, rural southern town. We weren't white enough to be white. We weren't black enough to be black. They didn't know who we were, what we were, or why we were there. But my parents knew, and there wasn't a day they didn't remind my brothers, my sister, and me that even on our worst day, we are blessed to live in America. This crisis of self-loathing will destroy us if we let it. We have to start loving America. We have to start loving America once again. And we have to teach our kids and our grandkids that America deserves their love. I'm not afraid to tell the real story of America. It's the story of Abraham Lincoln, Frederick Douglass, and the abolitionists who ended slavery. It's the story of Elizabeth Cady Stanton, Susan B. Anthony, and the suffragettes who made women's rights a reality. It's the story of Martin Luther King Jr., who told us his dream and saw it become real at the end of segregation. And I've seen this story in my own life and in my time as governor. When a black man named Walter Scott was murdered by a dirty cop, we didn't have riots. Instead, we passed the first body camera bill in the country, protecting our citizens and our good cops. When a sick and twisted man murdered 9 amazing souls at Mother Emanuel Church, we didn't have chaos, we had vigils. And as the first female governor of South Carolina and the first minority female governor in the United States, I will say until my last breath, America is not a racist country. America is a blessed country. This is the story we have to tell. This is the story we have to continue. If Republicans don't, no one will. But first, we've got some real work to do. It's time to make some hard choices and confront hard truths. It's time for some honest soul searching. After the midterms, I'm more determined than ever to fight with everything I've got to bring strength back to our country. We can't allow ourselves to fall short again. Now's the time to expand the tent. We have to reach out to younger generations. We have to reach out to Hispanics, to Asians, to African Americans, to the Jewish community, and yes, to women. It will make us a stronger and better party, and it actually reflects what we believe. The Republican Party is the only party that believes in lifting up everyone, not just a select few. A lot of people have asked if I'm going to run for president. Now that the midterms are over, I'll look at it in a serious way, and I'll have more to say soon. If my family and I decide to continue our life of service, we will put 1,000% into it, and we'll finish it. For now, I'll say this. I've won tough primaries and tough general elections. I've been the underdog every single time. When people underestimate me, it's always fun. But I've never lost an election, and I'm not going to start now. I'm ready for the road ahead. As a brown girl growing up in a small rural southern town, I saw the promise of America before me. As the proud wife of a combat veteran, I saw our people's deep love of freedom and determination to defend it. As governor of South Carolina, I saw our state move beyond hate and violence and lift up everyone in peace. And as ambassador, I saw that America is still the standard. When we speak, the world listens. Where we lead, the world follows. Who we are, the world wants to be. I was reminded of America's special role every day at the United Nations. But one day stands out among the rest. It was the day I stood on the Simon Bolivar Bridge between Venezuela and Colombia. I watched thousands of Venezuelans walk holding their babies in the hot sun for hours just to get the one meal they might get that day. At that time, they were killing zoo animals for food. They were fleeing socialism, and they were searching for freedom. When I left the bridge, I went to a nearby shelter where the Venezuelans were gathering. After a few minutes, more and more families started to gather around me. I didn't understand why they flocked to someone they had never met. And then it hit me. They didn't care who I was. They cared where I was from. In me, they saw America. And in America, they saw hope. As Republicans and as Americans, it's up to us to renew that hope. Our children and our grandchildren are counting on us. And together, I know We will come through for them in a way that makes everyone proud. Thank you. God bless you, and God bless America.